the easiest way to fix a big mistake is to wipe it out and start over. And I've done these, as I said, a few times, and I've started them over many times. It's, you know, it's good practice. Okay, so I think I'm broadcasting now. Let me maximize. Okay, are we ready, sort of, for today? I'm not looking for, I'm not seeing massive enthusiasm, but I'm not seeing total rebellion either. All right, so I'm going to bring up Visual Studio again. So it's VS Code. And again, the way you do it is basically down in the corner, these domino like dots. If you click on that, it shows what you're installed. I'm going to lower this a little. It just seems like a lot of glare on there. It shows you your installed apps. And I went to so I went here. The little the dots, the dominoes.
Oh, okay.
And it shows you your installed apps, which I don't have very many, right? And you can choose. We have Firefox, we have Visual Studio. I'm also going to show you one other thing. I think I'll need Firefox for that. But Visual Studio Code is what we'll be using almost all quarter. Now I have it on models here, but we're actually going to go to settings first. But I think I want to do one other thing first before we do go to settings. If you look at this, before I do that though, you'll see that there's a folder. When I did this, if you haven't done this yet, what you want to do is File, Open Folder, and you want to find your project folder, the outer one. That's the one you want to open. So I have Python Club here, and I have Tech Review. I'm actually up here. I'm probably not going to do anything in Python Club. I have done the entire Python Club at home, just so that I know what errors you may encounter. So I'm going to do Tech Review Project. Up here, there's an OK. Takes you right back to where I was before. You may not have this Models Pi in here. You probably have well, you'll have Manage Pi, of course. I'm just thinking you'll probably have something here that tells you about VS Code. You don't want to open Manage Pi. Just do OK. Okay, so we have our project. This is the outer project folder. We have the inner project folder. Well, this is the app, and then down below here is the inner project folder. These are on the same level, remember, the app and the project. And today we're going to mess with mostly with settings pi and URLs pi. Yeah.
Mine says just tech app instead of tech review app. Is that
That's fine. It's whatever you named it. Let's go up with the open folder. Open folder. Go up the level. No. All right, so we're going to do a couple of other things there too, but I want to actually go off to a side thing real quickly. I'm going to open up Firefox. If you have downloaded Chrome, you can do that too. Yeah. That's fine. And then do open. Yeah, is it not open? You know whether you're using to do these? Well, we don't want to open a file.
Nope.
We want to open a file. And then if you do it, go to Django. Yeah.
Drew up my hands.
Mine
Wrote an email.
does not have, is this the way that does not?
Actually, I think they're.
I wasn't opening it. Yeah.
Usually doing that, like, that usually means you got it. Like,
You want to open it. That's fine. So if you put a little paragraph. Yeah.
I mean, you have to work like,
Did you download the file? Did you install it? Sometimes it's not like, the reason I'm asking is
Hanging on.
if you install the file,
oh, yeah, there you go.
all through Mark signatures. But you do not need to download from the can if you want to. All right, so I didn't get this open. Anyone else need just to get in there? So we're going to come back there. Just leave that open. Don't close it. What I want to do is to actually, so what we have right now is we have this PHP admin, and I click that, and we could use this, right? We can use this. It's a PHP PG admin. It is not the standard interface for Postgres. And what I want to do is go through a series of commands that will get you to the more standard Outlook, although you don't have to. This will work. So what I'm going to do is go to Canvas. It's interesting when I do Canvas, everything except Seattle Central comes up. So if you go to announcements in Canvas for our course, I did the script. So I'm going to go to announcements, and this is the script. You do not have to do this if you don't want to, but I'm going to. Couple of things about this. You can't just copy and paste it and run it. You have to run it line by line. And we need to run it in the command prompt. Right? What this will do is it'll download the regular PG admin, which is actually written in Python. If you're getting that, you do want to download Chrome. You want to download
I want to
Chrome.
download her. Okay.
Firefox breaks sometimes here, and I don't know why. That's when Firefox breaks. You do want to download Chrome. To do that, just go to the apps. That is an apps. Google Chrome stable. Did you install it? You did. So just open it up. You can make it. I do not know. It's never broken on me, but if you suddenly find Canvas gigantic and unusable, there seems to be an update in Ubuntu that did that to Firefox.
Especially if we're using a laptop, you don't have to use it, so do it.
No, you don't. Well, no. If you have your own laptop, you already have, if you did the Postgres, you already have the standard PG admin. This is only in the virtual machine, right? This is only for the virtual machine. On your laptop, the chances that you have PHP PG admin is 0. But here, David installed that, and I'm not that fond of it. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to make this zoom. We're going to zoom in a little bit more. Now, the easy part of this is all I have to do is line by line copy it into here. So I have to do paste. It won't just cut, you know. So I press that, and it asks me for the password, which again is p@ssw0rd1. If you don't get this done, as I said, it's not crucial. It always reminds me of like Jurassic Park or something when you get the scrolling. Yeah.
Be sure on our laptop we don't have to do this.
You do not have to do this on your laptop. Not even sure if it'll work on your laptop.
Okay.
It probably won't, because basically what we're doing is we're going into the apt-gets. And the thing about the Postgres is it's not in the normal apt-get. If you know Linux, it's in its own repository, so we have to redirect a few things. The thing is, they give you a script to do that, right? So we're going to get a key. So I go back to here and I install the key. So I'm just going to paste that. And that gives me the key. The key gives you permission to get things. Again, on your laptops, you do not have to do this. I think you just get errors. I believe this is all one line. And let's do it again. Okay. No response means it worked. This is a little dangerous. So update it will probably take a little bit. Yeah, it didn't take very long. Okay. So then the last one is the actual install. I keep wanting to do Control V, but it doesn't work. Okay, so I said yes, and now it's installing PG Admin.
What is this changing? I don't understand why.
It's just a nicer interface for the database.
Okay. Oh, Steve?
Yeah.
We're getting the same errors.
What is your error?
It says that the release is invalid for another 4 days.
The release is invalid.
Updates for the release your file.
That's fine. You should still be able to do that. Yeah. It's just telling you that there's an update that will be available, I think. Yes. You don't continue, you get nothing. All right, so what this did is if I go here, and let's look at all, I now have a PG Admin 4 icon. And when I open it, and then I will do, I'm going to hook onto the server. So if it doesn't have the server, I'm going to create a server called Localhost. I'll help you do this if you need. Connection, localhost. Oh, password is password. P at SSW0RD1. All right, so now I have, and let me make this bigger. It's just a different interface. So this is the other interface. This is PG Admin over here with the PHP Admin. I just find it less intuitive.
Can you do that again?
I can't run the script again, but I could tell you.
Oh, the website. Yeah, this one. Where did you put it together?
It's in the apps now.
Okay.
So if you look for all the apps, not the frequently used, there'll be an elephant. Don't know why PG Admin is an elephant, but it is.
And it's okay that we're opening it in Firefox?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And then
It goes to whatever your default browser is.
Why did we need Chrome then?
Because Firefox fails on some machines, and I don't understand why some and not others.
Okay.
You don't have to have Chrome, and you could open it in Chrome if you want. But Firefox is perfectly fine if it's working, right? The only reason and I haven't installed Chrome yet, is if Firefox fails. Now, the reason why I say this is optional, and again, this is what it looks like if you've got your own laptop, right? This is how it looks. And basically, I just like this better. We're not going to spend a lot of time in here because most of the stuff will be done from Django side, right? It'll create the database tables. It'll move the data back and forth. Most of it will be done on Django, but we have to initialize the database here. So we copy that, right? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So yeah, you want to add a server. Well, yeah, you want to add a server. You want to name of localhost. So on the server, this part I know I probably did fast. So I'm going to go into the properties here. So cancel. Let's do localhost. On the localhost side, you need to name it localhost. On the connection, now you don't have to name it localhost, but that's kind of the expected. That's actually what the script I'm going to give you for what? Go ahead.
I was wondering how you got to localhost.
So the server's there, right?
yes, sir, right.
Yeah. So right click on the server's create,
Okay.
and then type localhost.
Server group.
Server. It's one server.
This is everybody, right?
Actually, you shouldn't have to do this if you're on your laptop. If you don't have any server, if you don't have a local host, then you might want to do it on your laptop. But you worked with it all last quarter. You should be fine.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, you only need to do this if you don't have any server showing here. All right, so in the general, it's just localhost.
Okay.
And then under the connection, you need to do, and this doesn't have it because it's the properties. You need to do localhost, Postgres is fine, and then the password is whatever actually the password on the machines is password. P at SSW0RD1. everything is password. It's not good production values, but it makes life easy. Once you've done that, you'll have then you should have your servers if you save it. And you'll see that it has, databases, login groups, and table spaces. We can mostly ignore those. I'll open the database one, the only database we've got right now is Postgres, which is a system database, right? It's just a system database. All relational databases have system databases that keep track about information about other databases and etc. Yeah. So right-click on servers. Just done this.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Oh, and maybe yes, okay, so, yeah.
Just right-click.
11, I have.
Create server. Not a group.
I did it. I haven't played it.
Localhost.
No, I have to do the but it was with.
You didn't have to do Postgres.
What you suggest is using
Yeah.
Wait, so are we not?
Put localhost there.
You apparently already have.
Oh, okay, so.
Oh.
I know. And then I hope to God that someone doesn't know you're seeing. Yeah, exactly. So say, if you watch too long, to say no the password. Yep. You're welcome. Yeah, just random stabbing of clicking. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Jill, me, and some other person, so we can. Are we able to jump in? Ours is due April 25th. Oh.
It should have asked you for it. It's for the server, not for the.
You could absolutely.
Like this separate stuff we're doing, are we creating a server?
No.
Are we connecting?
No, this thing here, this is not the server. This is not Postgres. So if you haven't installed Postgres, that's why you can't connect.
So what is?
This is just a front end. This is very common in the database world. SQL Server has a SQL Server Management Studio. It is not SQL Server. It's just the front end, right? You can have multiple front ends. That's why you can have PHP Admin as well as this one. You can have multiple front ends to this. You can build your own if you really want to. The server is a different thing. It's running on the underneath as a process. And that's true on Windows too. This is just a graphical front end. If you don't want to use the graphical front end, you can do all of this from the command line. Postgres is accessible from the command line in a lot of database administrators would never bother with the graphical interface. They would only do the command line. But it's a pain in the butt to do it from the command line. You have to spell everything right. You have to do everything exactly right at the command line. What we need to do here is really fairly minimal. We need to create two databases. So I am going to create a database. And what I did is I right-clicked on databases, create. And again, this can be done from the command line. So I'm going to create a database. I'm going to call one of them, I think I called it Tech Review DB.
Yeah.
Capitalization doesn't matter, but I'm going to just save that. And notice I have a Tech Review database here. It has no tables in it or anything, and that's fine. Everything else will be added from Django. I'm also going to, while I'm here, although you guys, it's something you can do on your own, this is part of, you will need this as a what do we call it? Python club. And if you want, you can put a DB on it. It's not, I mean, the name can be whatever you want, but Python club makes sense. And then I'm going to save it. So we have two databases here. The one thing that Django won't do is create the database. It'll create the tables. It'll add things to it. We'll look at that later today. Just as a side note, I have grown kind of fond of Postgres as a database. It's very powerful. It has lots of tools that we're not going to look at all in this class. But it is open source. It'll run on anything. And some people are touting it as a replacement for Oracle because it has a lot of features Oracle has, but it costs nothing, whereas Oracle costs thousands. So everybody got the two databases created? Because that's really all we need to do here. The rest will be done in Python. Occasionally we might come to look at what it's done here, just so you can see what the effect of things was. Are you guys okay down there? Do you need a little? You're okay? Okay. And how is my voice carrying to the back? Okay, so let me know if it doesn't. Weirdly, my ears are kind of plugged. I don't know why, allergies or something. So if I don't hear, it's hard for me to tell how my voice is projecting. And if I don't hear you, yell at me louder. Okay, so having done that, and again, in this one, you could do the same thing. You would just have to Postgres and password, and you could go in and create it. It's just less intuitive, right? The other environment is still good. It just is a little less intuitive. And this one looks the way it looks to the rest of the world. I'm not sure anybody much uses the PHP one. All right, so I'm going to minimize that. And we're going to go back to, that's our command line. So I'm going to minimize that. You could close it. We don't really need it there. So I'm back in Visual Studio Code. This is where, as I said, we're going to spend 90% of our time. Is doing code in here. I am going to add a terminal. And I'm going to, this is a terminal in the menu option, and I'm going to do new terminal. And I'm going to make that go down a little bit so I have some more room for code. I might also move that over a little bit. All right, the reason is if you build a terminal, one of the things I really like about VS Code is you can put a terminal right here. And you can do this in Windows too. You just add a terminal. In Windows, you have a choice of two terminals. You have a choice of CMD, command, or you have a choice of PowerShell. If PowerShell will work for you, it's better. Not everybody, it depends on how your computer was set up or what version of PowerShell you have. PowerShell will not do some things on some computers. But command will do everything. CMD will do everything. That being said, PowerShell is just my suit. All right, so I think I do have some other choices here. No, just bash for right now. So we're all set up. We've got our files over here. Our code is going to be in here, and our terminal will be there. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Can we use VS Code to interpret the Python code, or are we going to use something else?
Well, so the thing is, yeah, VS Code is what I'm going to use for the Python. As I said, all of our coding is going to be in VS Code. If you want to use something else, you can. You're on your own in terms of figuring out how it all interacts. There are, particularly for Windows, there's a Python. What is the name of it? Anybody know? There's a suite, kind of like a Android suite. What?
Is it idle? Is that what
No, you can use idle. Idle is a lot more primitive than this.
That's what I do before.
Yeah, you can use idle. You can use the command line because you can do Python with the command line. You can do. I'm trying to think. There's a Python suite that's a lot more full. What?
Are you thinking about Python?
Might be PyCharm.
Yeah, I think it's my chance.
PyCharm. There are other things you can use. It's just that I found this really nice and efficient. Files, terminal, code. Okay. So one of the things you should make sure of that it's Python 3 down here. Right down in this corner, it tells you what it is. If you're in Python 2, you'll get errors for a lot of Weird thing about Python, I don't know if you know this, but Python 2 is utterly incompatible with Python 3. The two are not compatible. You either do 3 plus or you do 2 and less. Yeah.
I have 0.
Then you might not have.
Me too.
So pick a file. Go to settings. If you have 0, if you have nothing down here, it's because you haven't opened any of your files probably. So we're going to work with settings Py, so that might be the first one to open. If you have nothing here, it should then change to Python. Visual Studio Code is pretty good at guessing what language you're using. Pretty good, but not perfect. And if this is wrong, you can click on it and you can choose a different language. If it asks you to install on Windows, it may ask you to install Python. Not Python itself, but Python as it is an extension of VS Code. VS Code can do C#, it can do Python, it can do Java, it can do PHP, it can do JavaScript. It basically will handle, it's just a shell that'll handle pretty much any language, but you might have to download the extensions for it. Yeah.
Is that what it says when your pilot is not installed initially?
Actually, don't install PyLint. Just get rid of that. What PyLint is basically a series of tools to help with debugging. But in Django, it's a pain in the butt because it marks dozens of things errors that are not errors. Every time when we do a view, every time you say like product.objects, it'll say there's no such thing as objects that belongs to product. And that's wrong. That's just totally wrong. It gives you errors that are wrong. And that's annoying. So I wouldn't install PyLint. In general, what PyLint is, it gives you a more sophisticated set of debugging tools. But it doesn't work real well with Django. Okay. So actually, where we want to be is in settings.py. Are we ready? Everybody kind of there? So this is an important file. It is literally where you set up all your settings. We're only going to change a few things. And if you use the defaults, which we're doing, You don't have to make a lot of changes in here. If you decide not to use the default setup in here, then you have a lot of changes to make in here. But we're going to do the defaults. So one of the things is installed apps. We need to set up our current app, which is Tech App. I think it's up a little higher. Tech Review, yeah, Tech Review app. We need to add that. If you called it Tech App, call it Tech App. If you called it something else, call it whatever you called it. But right here, I'm not sure yours was it set up properly? I thought we saw the.
Yes,
I got the project, but I don't have the app.
I'm going to call it Tech Review app. Did you do the wrong folder, maybe?
Is it case sensitive?
It is exactly. It is
You want
case
to
sensitive.
capitalize your T then?
Yes, I was just seeing that. Yes, it is case sensitive. And weirdly, you probably should put a comma after the end one. Let's go out. Actually, it's under 5. Cancel. File. Open folder. Open folder. Actually, let's go back. That should give you. Give me a minute. I'll help you do the app. All right, so you have to register the app. If you don't register the app, what'll happen is it'll never find it. It'll say your app doesn't exist. This is, these are the things that are already registered, like the admin, which we'll play with a little bit, the authorization, content type, sessions. These are all kinds of things that are pre-registered. You can, if you want to be really strict about this, say Django contrib dot tech review app, but it'll work with just tech review app. These are tuples. Does that make sense to you? It's a Python thing. Tuples are just a data type that are basically a list separated by commas. The weird thing about them is that they want a comma after the last item of the list too. All right, so the other thing we need to change is the database. So, and there will be a couple of things we need to do with this. By default, Django uses SQLite 3. All right, so SQLite, anybody ever worked with SQLite? I mean, it would work here. It's really low power. It's what they use on your phone. Doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or a Android phone. SQLite is usually the local database repository. It usually connects to something out on the web, right, to give you a more robust database backup. But locally, it's SQLite because SQLite is really lightweight. It's not very powerful, and it has some limits, and it only can have one database. All right. But so we're going to change that, and I'm going to real quickly go to the GitHub just to show you what we'll change it to. So if you go to my GitHub, and I'm going to do repositories, and I will do Tech Review 2, which is the one I did last quarter. Tech Review 2, Tech Review 2, settings, Pi. And this is right here is what we want. So we're going to get the default, the engine is going to be Django.db backends.postgres SQL and psychopg2, which we're going to have to install. Right? It's not there, but we'll use it. The name tech review db2 or db, user is Postgres, password is password1, host is localhost, port is the default unless, as I said, on your own machine you use something other than the default. I am actually, yeah.
Is this something that's going to be on a Git ignore file, since there's like credential information?
I don't know. I don't think so, actually. Yeah, now, if you were doing this, there's nothing, nothing of ours is particularly exposed because we're not actually putting it on the internet except for the file. But you're right, you probably would want to Git ignore this if you were doing this for a commercial thing because you don't want to give away your connect information. Yeah.
On your blog, you have the same, almost the same thing, but you named it Tech Project DB.
Yeah. What did we name it in today? I'm going to go back to the PG admin for.
I know, because I have both now.
I did it as Tech Review DB. It has to match whatever this is, right? It has to match whatever your actual database name is. What? Oh, go there and go into Tech Review 2. Tech Review 2.
So I didn't really find it.
All that stuff. I continue to get GitHub, but I found it.
So what I'm going to do with this, you don't have to do this. You could certainly just write it in. I'm going to cheat. I went to raw, and I'm just going to copy it from default to that. We do, but not yet. Yeah.
I got all this. Yeah, so this name, I've been using all of that.
So what we want to do is
But if we change tech project,
yeah, because you haven't done that.
Where?
So this is I'll give it that where we can I will show you this one. I'm going to bring it up. That is technically the go to repository. Yeah. So it's in, tell you what, I'm going to put this up and then we can type it in. So I went to raw because it, otherwise you get formatting and stuff. Here it is, you can type, we can type it in. If you can't get there, if you're, So let me see if I can get it all in the window. Tell you what, I'm going to close the file thing for right now. So the engine Django.db.backends.postgres SQL _ psycho PG2. I think that's supposed to be Postgres something. I have no idea what those letters stand for.
I think Psycho's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah. The PSYCOPG2 is a driver to hook it to Postgres. And it isn't on the machine, so we will, once we're done with this, we'll do a migrate and it'll say you have to install that and then we'll install it. Does that make sense? So the database needs to match, right? So if you typed in a different database name, make sure it matches your database name.
And here, capitalization does matter.
I think so. Did I capitalize? I don't think I capitalized it when I did it on the. It's better to match your capitalization. I'm not 100% sure it matters here, but because it doesn't matter to Postgres, but it probably matters to Python. Postgres is our user. Couple of things about that. In real life, for testing and things, that's fine. Postgres is not your ideal user. Postgres is the default admin. Right? In real life, you'd probably want to create a user, give it a different connection structure. Password, again, not the greatest password. You're right, though, we're doing this plain text. So you probably wouldn't in real life want to host this on GitHub, this file.
I didn't realize it would be on like files that we're putting on GitHub. Can I like make a separate credentials file and import it?
I don't know, actually. You can try. Again, this doesn't matter for us, but it.
I think I have the same issue because like I'm using a password that's kind of similar to other passwords I use on other sites. So like,
so what I would.
Way to change the password to this?
You know what? If you change the password, you're going to have to change the password on Postgres. Does that make sense?
Right.
Which you can do.
Well, that's what I mean. Is it easy able to do that, or?
Sure. If you go back to Postgres, I mean, you can put whatever put password one right here. And then if you go back to Php Admin 4, if you go down to login groups and users, which is way at the bottom here. See if I can move it up a little. All right, so one of them is Postgres. And you can go to the properties. And if you go to, is it definition, you can change the password.
Thank you.
The other thing, you could use a real password on yours and just in the GitHub change it. I don't care if it's a real password.
What's your main selection on that? Are you looking at Python Club or are you looking at servers?
Oh, so what I did for that, to find the PGA, I mean the Postgres. So down below.
What are you selecting in the left column?
Over here.
No, in the left column.
Over here. Postgres under login groups and roles. So it's not part of any database. All of the logins are server side. And at the very last one is Postgres. And then again, if you do the properties, you can change the, so if you do the definition, you can change the password. You can also do it at the command line. You can change set password equal for Postgres. I wouldn't, for most of you, I wouldn't. I would just use this default password. You know what, though? It actually is an interesting question. And I might look into it. It doesn't matter much if you're running this. So this is a server-side file. The only time that this should be visible is if it were, you know, GitHub or something. On the other hand, it is in plain text. There's got to be a way to encrypt that. Because even if it's server-side, it's still a little dangerous to have it plain text.
I wonder if there's any kind of like hashing library that you can use.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's actually encrypted in the Postgres side, but I don't know what it is on. I will look, because that is a weird. There's got to be a way to encrypt that or hash it. That's actually a good little piece to research there. All right, localhost is the default name of the server. If you named your server something else, and you do have that option when you install it, you'd have to use that name, right? And then this is the default port, so we're just saying use whatever the default is by putting empty quotes there. I know on my home machine, because I have Postgres 10 and Postgres 11, that I had to specify the exact port, because I had two versions of Postgres. And they both call themselves localhost, so I had to give the exact port. But in our case, the empty quotes will work. Does everyone sort of have this? I know not everyone could look it up. Again, a lot of this stuff is one time only. You don't have to do it again. Except you'll have to do this for your Python club. Yeah.
Is the server name just the very top thing on PG or PG Admin?
So it's what if you. So let's go to PG Admin. So let's look at the server. So you look at localhost there. Did you name it that?
Yeah, mine just says Postgres.
So then look at properties and see what it's named there.
Yeah, it's the name there too.
Use Postgres 11. I think localhost will still work. If it doesn't, you can change it.
Yeah.
One of the things you can do is you can set the name to be localhost if it doesn't work. Other questions before we go on to the next part of this? This is actually all we have to do in this file. Yeah.
I think for the question he just asked, if you go to the Postgres property and go to connection,
Then it's localhost.
Host name is localhost. So whatever your name is, host name is.
Yeah.
This might not be too pressing, but I have under my local host, I have a couple databases from previous classes.
Should be fine.
Okay, they won't let me delete them.
You don't need to delete them. They must have dependencies.
It says there's one other person using them.
So you would have to somehow disconnect. But in a way, it doesn't. The thing with the server is you can have, like mine on my machine, I have like 15 databases there. That's what a server allows you to have multiple databases running at the same time. One thing you want to do, and this is something that we need to do quite a bit, is save. Right? Nothing takes place unless you save it. So if you don't save these changes, the effect is that it won't happen. It's as if you never did it, right? A lot of times when you make a change and you run it, I do this all the time, and I say, why didn't that work? I didn't save the file. I didn't see my changes. So
for the option, you use the save all.
You can do save all if you want. Yeah.
When I save it, it brings up that option to install that thing again. I just keep ignoring it.
Yeah. Is there a way to get rid of it all? Do not show again. Yeah. All right. Not that you care, but this is an example of a dictionary object. For Python. So it's a key value. Rough everything. Yeah.
So I file saved, but I'm confused as to how I know that what I added was added correctly.
Well, so if it doesn't throw, so a couple of things. One, when we do the next thing, if it's not correct, it'll throw errors, and then we can fix that. You can get VS Code will give you little red squiggles and things if there are errors in the typing. But if there's errors in the logic, that won't show up until we do the. So if the port is long, if the name is wrong, if the password is wrong, it won't mark that until we actually try to connect.
So then, in general, in Visual Studio Code, there's not like a way to just run through and test it other than to play with it and see if it's broken?
This is a Python thing because of the way Python is run. Python is not compiled. It is interpreted line by line. So generally, in a compiled code, it will compile it all and give you all the errors. Typically, in Python, it won't give you the errors until it runs through it line by line. So something like C# or Java actually is better, gives you better compile errors than Python. Also, you're going to find that the error messages are complex and not necessarily helpful.
Isn't a line by line implementation like that run a lot slower?
It does. So one of the drawbacks of Python, I think one of the reasons why it's not a super popular for websites, although there are a fair number of them, is that interpreted languages run slower than compiled languages. PHP, though, is really popular, and it's also a interpreted language. There are optimization libraries out there that will help things speed things up. But yes, one of the complaints about Python in general is that it's slow. We won't see that here because we're not doing anything that intense. But Python has enormous libraries and things, so it is the most popular programming language in the world right now, although Java is more popular on the commercial level. Does that make sense? Okay, we're done with that part. Having done that, and this, I don't know if this will work without your app there, but we'll see. We are going to run a little command, and you need to be right where it is, Django files, tech review project. I'm going to do a quick ls. No, I don't want to change. So in the ls, which is, remember, the listing of files, and you don't have to do that, but I just want to show you what level I am. And it's the level basically that I chose when I did choose folder, right, open folder, the outermost folder. So I'm in tech review project. Inside of that, I have manage Pi, tech review app, and tech review project. And that's where I want to be. Manage Pi, which is a weird little file, but it's what we need for everything that we're going to run, basically. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I am going to say, whoa, not there. That is actually a problem I sometimes have, is where is my cursor? I want to do Python and 3. If you're on your own machine, it's just Python. I don't know if I can lift that up or not. Maybe I can lift the whole. So Python 3 for the virtual machines, or if you're on Ubuntu. If you are on Windows or a Mac, just Python. Macs might have to have Python.
My terminal it's not displaying anything, and it's not letting me enter anything.
Do you have? I think it is. It's just not displaying as well. Try typing. Mine does that sometimes too on Windows, and I'm not sure what it's doing. So I want to do Python 3 manage.py migrate. We're going to have to do this again later when we create our own models. But what this will do is it will generate the SQL to create the default tables for this. And the default tables are all related to authorization and users and etc. I'm going to get an error, right? And I knew I would get an error. And the error is for all of that, oh, my virtual environment isn't activated. This is because I installed it outside the virtual environment. So first thing I've got to do, I'm going to do a quick clear. So first thing I've got to do is cd back. So I have to go up a level. And then I have to say source ben. Did I name? I named it env, right? And this is different on Windows if you have to do this. So do I have to go back one more level? What did I do? Oh, I know why. You know why mine didn't work? All right, so on Windows, leave out the source. Scripts instead of binary. So what you want to do, if you are, and whatever you named your virtual machine, this you may not have to do this if you actually installed inside of it, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do, on Windows, the slashes go that way too. That's why I did it wrong the first time. On Windows, the slashes are the normal DOS backslash. On Macs and Unix, it'll be the slashes that way. Source, I think, is, I don't know about Macs, whether you need that or not. Yeah. No.
Where do we find what we name the environment?
If you do an ls, or in your case a dir, yeah. Let me look. So first you have to do this. And then you do CDs, do ls. So then do C to space into that. So then do ls. So get rid of this so it should work. Do too far. Now I go back. I think that's all we have to do though. Yeah. Once you've got it activated,
So what's the is Margaret work for you? No, just like you don't do Margaret yet? Oh. I'm waiting for you. Margaret, we need with the
You spell the.
No, what I'm saying is the Python Margaret.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, yes.
I mean, it's Margaret and even the database, I think.
Java used to use Java for HTML.
Yeah.
CSS. Microsoft Word for programmers.
They gotta be bad.
I just think you need.
So,
Microsoft Word for writing letters, right? You use VS Code for writing code.
No, just activate.
So, people need
The way you know it works.
to change something.
Yeah. It works.
See your.
Activation it works.
See when I go into the.
Yeah, you activate. Yeah.
Postgres 6.
So the next I think I'll create that.
You don't get it, you'll see. And what I found out.
so you're not in.
Yeah.
If I go into the data folder and change this file right here. So here's the data. And see here, it has these two files. But I changed it. So where it says trust. This allowed me to go in and change my password.
So,
And I think it will work. Yeah, so I think. But you're not seeing these files at all, so. There's instructions for changing
now try.
stuff.
Yeah. That's like the, it's called.
Select the third one.
It's the.
You guys okay?
You got me?
It's just
This is going slower than the install, which is weird because it's not that complicated. Our thing is okay.
This still is stuck.
Right, so a lot of people can do PowerShell. So do file, go up to terminal. Yeah. Go to terminal. New terminal. There should be a thing down here to customize.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and I was like, I found a way to use the change.
So you have to do a new terminal. You're in.
Oh, yeah, and actually,
It should work. I'm not sure why you're doing that.
where do I find what I named my virtual environment?
So go back to the You guys are okay? Yes, you're in.
Okay, so go to 11, so go back to the Postgres.
You're fine. For me, yeah.
It's not been. Yeah, but it's something that. So, slashes go
I so I can go through the Python.
So you can do it, I mean, you can do the virtual machine on it, but it's probably faster. So just do the Windows. I mean, once the install, once this stuff is set up, it's all the same. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's so like set things.
All right, so I'm gonna have to log back in. I will try to troubleshoot here in a moment for all the people that are still having. So anyway, I need to, having this, I still will get an error here. So I don't need to activate again. If you do the up arrow or the down arrow, it will cycle through commands. So I'm back to Python 3, manage, migrate. Oh, and I'm in the wrong directory, so I want to get to the right directory to have the right error. I knew I would regret my caps. Okay, the error that I'm going to get here is that psycho PG2 doesn't exist. Yeah.
I could not see what you typed in the command line before you hit enter.
Yeah, you gotta slow down. Tell us you're typing something.
But it's still error.
It's still error.
Thank you.
Which we did.
Earlier.
So it's this, but it's without the first part. Because I think that's what yeah, it's that. So much.
I haven't been able to activate it, so every time I've been trying to activate it.
Oh, but you're not.
I'm not supposed to use source.
You need to do this now from the script.
Yeah, use scripts instead of bid. So do the up and down arrow. Do the up arrow. Yeah, there you go. What you did? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Thank you. Yeah, I tried that one, but then scripts is a bit.
It's gonna error. Yeah, so this is going to error. So the reason is that the Psycho 2 isn't installed. That's the gist of all of that. All right. So let me do a quick clear just to get it up to the top here. This is fairly easy. Took a long time to get here, but we want to do pip install Psycho PG 2. How is the spelling of that? Is that correct? There's no underscores or anything in it?
And then see, no.
You install that on the virtual environment or like the machine itself?
You might need it in both. Yeah.
Commands trying to activate this file and keep getting an error.
All right, just a second. What did I do wrong for the pip install? Did I spell it right? What? Right, but what did I do that should work? I'm going to try one other thing real quickly. Nope, it still didn't do it.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. It's one of those,
So I have
today it did nothing.
Did anybody get it? You did the install before, right? And it worked. Did yours work?
That's getting it, yeah, successfully installed.
This one's not working and this one's a whole other site.
And then one of these two is
So
oh yeah, if I just flag it, doesn't that count? So I just need some combination of flags. I'm just gonna try everything.
you probably need to go back.
Oh, it'll solve it?
I think so. Oh, you're right.
It's the worst.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, this is right here too.
Yeah. So, yeah, I told you right at the no.
Not this one. No, I think it is. I think it's quick. What would you think that it has to be this one?
Did anyone get it to install?
How did that even happen? I didn't see that. I think these are touch screens. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm glad that didn't. Yeah. How did I even?
How did I flag it?
I don't know.
I thought I was gonna mess it up.
Oh, wait, they can't put. Oh. Oh, no. Oh, God. Wait.
Oh, probably just turned on the brush.
No, it's not. Something is wrong. Hello? Hello? Why is this not working?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Let me see about the error.
No, I can't get it. I was trying to fix it.
I saw the one that it was too.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not going to.
I think that's why. So I can just
That's what I did. I just started taking out arrows and started searching the internet.
Actually, there's some very impressive records. I've used some set of base.
Like this one that you have right now.
Tetris is very difficult. The go click that you know, that's it's super efficient.
All right, so I really need to figure out why this isn't installing.
Okay, but.
He's getting a really strange error.
Which is that? Oh, wow.
It's telling me he's got to do some version of.
Yes.
You need to install Postgres SQL Server Dev.
I guess, but why is that not? So it says.
I think he's troubleshooting.
You got to go all the way to
I think
the
it sounds like it's
top of all that stuff. Really finding error.
I'm just going.
So see, it's not finding the module. Oh, that was your original.
Yeah, so that's too far up.
Going back to oh my god. I finished the first three and I was like, oh my god, there's a fourth one.
And I don't know, yeah, that's the same.
Yeah, so that's what he's getting too.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting to.
Yeah, so I'm getting that error too. So let's see what. You need to install.
I don't know what it is.
Everything that you did, I'm on Postgres.
There's a Stack Overflow that says
Everything
to,
I just did.
oh, get as installed Postgres. I don't know though, if you're already installed, then that's gonna.
Yeah, I wonder what the.
It's like the aftermath of what it was before.
Let me look one. Just 1 second. This is different error than I've encountered before, so I'm not sure why it's installed differently than it was last quarter. I'm pretty sure it's just pip install, creating pip.
Oh, this is what that other, when I searched on that error that you're getting now, similar.
Oh, yeah, I had to open GitHub.
Why? So I don't know that this will help. If it helps, I will tell you what I'm doing. No, it'll probably take the rest of the. Last time, and on my own machine and on my own things, I didn't have to do anything except pip install cycle 2. And it worked on the Windows machines.
I think it's a Windows thing, because like Ubuntu and Mac stuff.
Well, the Macs are essentially Linux underneath. The OS, basically, Macs are just Linux with a really fancy X Windows.
The Windows 10 has a Linux.
It does, although it doesn't allow any graphical command line stuff.
Right, but command shell, but
It does have a command shell for that, yeah.
I just figured that out this morning.
I played with it. I was kind of disappointed with it because my original idea was that it would interact with Windows, and it doesn't. It's like an isolated virtual.
But you can tell us.
I don't know if this is going to do anything or not. I hope not. So I'm not going to do the additional yet. If this works,
That's the last thing I did.
no, that gave me bigger error. Whoa. I have no idea. So we're missing the PG. We could probably move forward without this if we have to for right now, but pip install.
We might have to push the assignment to Thursday.
We might. I'm not too worried about timing on it, but I'm going to try something just to, this is just to see if I have totally screwed everything. So,
Jacob files your virtual environment.
no, my virtual environment is ENV01. I'm in the virtual environment, supposedly.
I don't have that level directory.
So we may have to put off, we've done that. I can show you what the other thing is, but I'm just wondering why. It's like it isn't seeing the Postgres server. And why is that? It is there, obviously.
You can use some command to the Postgres server response.
I know. I stared at it for a while. Yes. No, Jeff will be too, I'm sorry. And then Jeff will be too. And then we can have you too.
I may just, let me show the other thing we're going to do, and we won't migrate right now. And then I will figure this out, and we will have it ready for you. Because it's going to take some time to debug what's going on here. So I'm going to pull the bash line down. We're going to do this without running it, without running the migrate. So there's one other thing we want to do. And if I screwed mine up, that's fine, because I can rebuild it fairly quickly. So hopefully nobody ran the line I ran. So I'm going to go back to show the folder here. The other thing we want to change is the URL's pi. All right. By default, all we're opening is the admin. This URLs are what guide the application to a particular view, basically, when we do the views. It's right now it's just guiding to the admin one. We are going to, up at the top where it says import path, I'm also going to import include. And what we're going to do is we're going to redirect. This is the project level URLs. We're going to redirect the project level URLs to look at the URLs inside of our app. So I added an include to the import. And I am going to do path. And this part needs to match what your app name is, which in my case is Tech Review App. And it does need to map in case. And in comma, see if I'm doing this right. It's capitalized too. We want to say include. And we're going to, in quotes, Tech Review App dot URLs. So let me, I'll kill that for a moment so you can see the whole line. So it's URLs under the, yeah. And what this does is it will redirect it so it goes looks for the URLs in the app. This is useful if you have multiple apps in your project. You can, we're only going to have one app in our project, but you can have multiple apps in your project. So you need to import the include, and then you need to do this. One of the things I'll say too is that you will find in the online documentation, if you see URL equals here instead of path, it's an older syntax. It's an older version of Django. And you'll see that in the examples online sometimes. But this is the way you want to do it. So now what we have to do is we have to create this URLs file. Yeah.
I'm counting parentheses.
There should be 2 at the end. It doesn't hurt to have a comma here. It seems to work with or without. You will have to have a comma between any other app. We will be adding like one more thing at this, but not today. We'll have to add the authentication.
Oh, yes.
So this is the name of your app, whatever you named it. Mine is called Tech Review App, but yours could be named something else. It could be Tech App or whatever.
That's for both instances there?
Yes, these match, right? They're both referring to your folder, your app folder. I'm going to save this. Okay. And then I'm going to go to the, on the Tech Review app folder, whatever you named it, I'm going to right click and add a new file. And this file is going to be called urls .py. Right? Same, this actually has the same name as the one we're in, but it's in a different folder. This is Tech Review app, new file, urls.py.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's this command line. So cap is Tech Review app. Include Tech Review app.
.urls. Okay, so here, when I do that, it goes there. We do want, I'm going to go to the other URLs briefly. We do want this line. We could type it in, but and then I'm also going to do
Does that need to include in it?
we don't need the include. URL patterns. That's what I was trying to remember.
Goes at the top of the file.
Yeah, and don't make those curly braces or square. So we can leave it empty like that. You have to have at least that much there for the migration to work later. If I can figure out how to get the cycle PG to work.
I'm a very, it's important, but I'm a very wide heavy person.
Yeah.
My question is why sometimes URLs and sometimes URLs.
No.
It's just like a Danny doing, all right?
So URLs is the file, right? And it's going to be a list of URLs. The URL pattern is like what are the patterns look like?
So now what do you type up there?
Naming conventions are whatever the person who invented the language means.
I'm just wondering if you know how to understand
It's not fatal, it just
It's annoying, yeah.
yeah.
Is there some kind of file that you have listed as we do so
Yeah, if you look in under pages. So save this, and this is as far as we're going to go today. I need to work out that PyLint, or not PyLint. I need to work out that Psycho PG thing. So I'm going to save. So in Canvas, couple of things. Under Pages, if we do, where is it? Initial setup has a lot of these steps. At least it has, basically it has links to things that give you those steps. Where else under Pages? Overview of what we did so far. At what point is that? Those are just steps. But it does talk about the steps that we did. I didn't say to install the PG, the Psycho PG. There's also, if I go to tutorials and references, so the one that I just did is the Tech Review project. And this first one has most of the setup details. But why is it not doing the install of the PG? I've never had it not do that. But if you get this part, this actually is enough without the migrations. You could turn in the config assignment, right? So if you were to do this the way it is now, so I've saved everything. If I go to GitHub, and I think I made a new repository last time, right? Tech Review project. So again, if you just go to, what I usually do is go to the files. You can do this at the command line. You can do other things, but I'm going to go to my Django files, Tech Review project. I'm going to click on Tech Review project here. I'm going to upload files. And I'm just going to drag the whole folder. Every time, just drag the whole folder. Don't try to pick and choose your files.
So it's going to be a new.
It's a new commit. So all I have to do is I'm going to say configuration commit or whatever you want to name it. Even though you're overwriting old files, it only puts the commit on files that you've changed. It'll just be the same. I mean, so if we look at this once it's done, and we'll figure out, as I said, I'll figure out what's going on with that one file. So when I look in here under the tech review project, so notice manage Pi is part of the first commit. These two have things from the configuration commit. When I look under the tech review project, I did make changes in these two, but I didn't here, so it's still first commit. And if I look at the tech review app, they're all first commit except for the ones that I've just changed. So it'll kind of keep track of what files have just changed. It'll do the commit. You can also, it is possible if you want, I mean, I don't care, but you can look at the history. You can see a history of all the commits and when they were committed.
Okay, so this is for like assignment 2?
Yeah, so this is like assignment 2. And as I said, you can drag the folder onto the app or you can use a command line to do it. Yeah.
Do you need to submit the tech review one or the Python one? Because on
The Python club is the one I want to see. I'm showing you how to do it, but I want the Python club. The tech review, if you want to make a repository and do that, that's fine because it gives you the code you can look at. But you don't have to. The only one I care about in terms of the assignment is the Python club.
Oh, so we have to do this for Python?
Yes, yeah. Python club is the assignment. And this actually, if I looked at this, I would not know that you had not installed PsychoPG2 because this is actually what the assignment looks like. I will figure out what's going on there. I might have to build a new virtual machine after what I did. So I'm going to look real quickly. So that's it for the day, and I will figure out this other part.
So we don't have the ability to VPN to the school server from home.
We've been trying to get that, but no. A couple of issues. One, our servers are kind of isolated from the school servers, and they're really, we get our internet from them though, and they're really internet reluctant to give us the two-way. I mean, you could create this all. Yeah, you have your laptop. But yeah, it's.
Yeah, I haven't set up my laptop.
But this is gonna be curious now, so I want to set this up for virtual environment on the school machine. See what happens.
Yeah, well, you can. I mean, I don't know if anyone else is using that. I just need to figure out why.
When you make that commit, it will ask if you want a title to commit. That title will be on each of the files that have changed. Well, so if you scroll down to the like it'll say, like you see the green button where it says commit changes.
Oh gosh, okay, yeah.
So like just right above it, there should be like a box for you to put in like a title for the commit, and then there's like another text box for description.
Yes, so I have add files via upload, and then I have add upload for the description. I need to put a title and add files via upload.
Actually, let me see what it says from. Yeah, that's what you should put.
And we should just use like the assignment you use.
Well, put like a big, config up there. That's the update. He's gonna.
It's,
I am confused because I keep bouncing back and forth and my head feels swirly.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, just give him the Python school version.
Yeah, so now you just need to export that to your
Password and just try to password one account. Wait, so what's this?
Which ones we just either that, yeah.
I'm not gonna do that today.
Keep like that.
And that
Yes, that's what I asked. No, I just, I like it. But I work, I like
it looks like.
so the video for today is probably relatively useful, but it is videoed.